Hi and welcome to Prepping Essentials. Got another video for you today on our series of videos on cooking with your preps, and in this one we're going to turn this into this, which is rabbit pasties. Not many ingredients needed, both for the filling or for the pastry, but I'll explain them all to you as we go along. Okay, so for the pastry I've measured out the ingredients. We've got our 600 grams of plain flour, 150 grams of butter and lard, or if you've got beef dripping you could use that, some cold water and a little bit of salt. So all we need to do now is to blend these together. Now that's a lot of flour and I'm not entirely convinced that it's all going to go in here, so we'll just have to experiment with it and see, but we'll give it a go. The joys of doing it live. You're never quite sure how it's going to work out. Yeah, that's a lot of flour into a blender or a mixer this size, but it is going in, thankfully. Spread that around a little bit. And into that you'll see I've cubed the lard and the butter into small cubes. So I'm just going to pop these in and just cover them in flour. Try and get everything to blend in. It'll just help me later and stop all of this sticking together. It's a little bit of a faff, but it is just taking the time, and it will save you time later when it comes to mixing this all together. Almost there. Okay, that's the lard. Going to need an array of cloths today, I think, with all of these greasy ingredients. So we'll pop the lid on that and just give it a mix together, rather than watching me do this all the way through. I'll just pause the video for a second until I've blended this together, and then it'll be time for the butter. So that's the flour and the lard blended together. All we need to do now is to do the same again and just pop in the butter. Again, I'll just take the time to swish it around in this mixture. Get it all dusted over so it doesn't all clump together in one big lump. You don't have to do this, I just find that it makes it a little bit easier to mix everything together. We only just made it in this mixer. You can tell I'm not a, shall we say, a proper chef, in that I don't have all of the latest, biggest and best technology to work with. They do say keep it simple, stupid, don't they? Well, they do here in the UK anyway. Certainly if you're ex-military, you'll have heard that expression. Okay, so that's the butter into the mixer. So we'll do the same thing again. We'll just pulse that away and work again and again. Rather than you watching me, I'll just pause the video. Okay, and this is what we're looking for. We're looking for this breadcrumb type of consistency. And all we need to do now is to add a little bit of water to form the dough. So this is the tricky bit, is getting the dough to form in such a large volume. Essentially all we're going to do is add in around about 2 tablespoons of water, and that should help it to bind together. Don't overdo this and make sure the water is cold. I'll just pulse that until it forms the dough ball. Okay, we're ready to turn this out. In fact, I'll just pop that onto a tray. And there we are. There's our pastry dough. Now all we need to do with this is pop it into some cling film and we'll get it popped into the fridge to chill down. And while this is chilling, we can get on with the job of making the filling with the rabbit we've got. Don't know how many times I do this with cling film and you can never find the end. I think there's about enough there. Okay, pastry's done. The rabbit has come from my land. A friend of mine, Covid Hunter, you'll have seen his channel mentioned a few times in different videos, had a bit of an evening shoot session down in the land, got himself a few rabbits, kindly donated some to me. This is one of those rabbits, which is even more kindly quartered up for me. And so I've got front legs, back legs and back straps there. There's going to be, by the time I remove the bone, because being pasties you don't want bones in there, there's going to be about 500 grams of actual rabbit meat, give or take. And to go with that, we're going to have 200 grams of onions, a couple of cloves of garlic, 200 grams of my best new potatoes out of the field, and 200 grams of carrots. And then just as a liquid for simmering this in, once we've fried these off, I've got a chicken stock cube there, which is going to require about 450 ml of boiling water. Anyway, there's a bit of prep to do. I've got to get all the vegetables peeled and diced up into nice manageable little chunks. Got to get the bone off this rabbit. So if you just bear with me for 5 minutes and I'll show you once that's been completed. Okay, so that's our rabbit, all nicely diced up, and then the same with the onions and the potatoes. You might notice I've left the skin on the potatoes. They are so clean, this latest batch out of the garden, that I've left the skins on. Same thing, diced up the carrots and the garlic. All that remains as far as this is concerned is mixing up this stock cube with 450 ml of boiling water. Okay, so we're ready to go. Just pop the cooker on, pop a little bit of oil into the pan and get that warmed through so we can set about browning off the rabbit and equally the onions and the garlic. Using quite a sizable pan for this because there is quite a lot of ingredients, and when I add the water you do need a little bit of space to get this. Just give that a quick test and see when it comes to temperature. Not yet, clearly. Working on electric as I do, it does take a little bit of time for it to warm up. I don't think we're far off now. Let's give it a little test with a piece of meat. Almost there. Almost there. It is live, what can I say? Whenever I do cooking videos, what you see is exactly what you get. I'm not editing out the mistakes, I let you see everything. That's better. Right, that rabbit is cold because it's been in the fridge overnight, so I'll just give that lid a couple of minutes to bring up the temperature, during which time I can probably move you a little bit closer so you can see what's going on. Hopefully that's a little bit better for you. Just give these a stir around. Get them all browned off. We're not cooking these right now, we're literally just browning them off to seal them. We'll be cooking them a lot more slowly and for a lot longer later on. The object really is to get rid of the pink that I hope you can see in the pan and get it all browned. In terms of seasoning for this, I'm not really going to be using anything more exotic than a bit of salt and pepper as we go through. Rabbit meat is actually quite a flavourful meat, so there's not a great necessity to add anything else into it. I will do a little bit of salt and pepper, but it won't be a great deal. But it's personal taste, as with everything. If you wanted to add other seasonings to spice it up a little bit, maybe a little bit of curry or chilli in there, feel free to do so, or Worcestershire sauce, or if you're in Yorkshire, what is it, Hendo sauce, or I forget what it's called. They have a Yorkshire version of Worcestershire sauce, and every time I mention Worcester sauce at work, all of the locals kick off and create a big fuss. So they're browning nicely now. We've got the onions and the garlic. What I'm going to do actually is just set these aside for a moment. Apologies, I should have been prepared for this. I don't want to use the other plate because it's got blood in it. And I'd hate to poison myself or anybody else that might be tucking into this later. They're about there, I think, for what I want. So I'll just set those aside. They're not going to be sat here for very long. I just want to brown off the onions and the garlic for now. Did I get some under there or not? I don't know. So, into the pan, I'll just pop a little bit more oil. There's far too much water in there. Okay, get the onions in. And the garlic. And same thing, just soften and brown these off. I do like fried onions, I really do. Again, we'll just give that a minute or two to get back up to full temperature. Whilst I'm doing that, I'll get these ready. Get my stock cube unwrapped. I'm using chicken. You could use vegetable, it's entirely down to your own personal preference as to what you like. Chicken will go quite nicely with the rabbit. And to be fair, in those stock cubes, particularly in the amount that I'm mixing of water, it won't be a particularly strong flavour. Certainly won't detract from the rabbit meat anyway. Just let those brown off a little bit. I'll pause the video for a second while this is doing, because it's going to take a couple of minutes and it's going to be a bit boring for you just watching me brown these onions off. So when we're ready to put the meat back in and the vegetables, I'll come back to you. Okay, hopefully you can see the onions are browned off nicely. So we're going to pop back in our rabbit meat. And we'll just mix all of that together so that the onion and the garlic is all nicely mixed in with the meat. And we're ready for our vegetables. And as if by magic, while I had you on pause, I've mixed up the chicken stock. So we'll pop in the carrots and the potato. Now you can see why I needed the big pan. And again, we'll just give that all a bit of a mix together. I could eat this as it is. Never mind pasties. And we're ready for our stock. As I say, it's a 1 stock cube of 450ml of water. And that is pretty much spot on. There's a little bit of stock cube left in there, so bear with me a second. Waste not, want not. There we go. And again, just for good measure, mix everything in. We'll pop in a little bit of ground pepper and a little bit, look at that, that's pink Himalayan rock salt. I got it because it was on offer. This is a reused container, but that pink Himalayan salt was a really big, in fact, bear with me a second. It was that big. There's 750 grams in there, almost a kilo, for £1. So I got the original one just to test it and see how it was, because I've not had it before, and I liked it. So every time I see it now, I buy it. For those of you in the UK, you'll know the shop, Bargain Madness. It's a discount store. And that's where it was, and I believe still is, for £1. So I'll pop it on there, cover it up just to get it up to temperature. But the idea is, once it starts to boil up, I'll turn the temperature down and keep it on a simmer for about 45 minutes. And then I'll come back and you can see what it looks like. It is going to reduce down, or the idea is that it's going to reduce down, because we don't want a lot of liquid as we're making pasties. But I think 45 minutes, that should be substantially reduced, and I'll just keep giving it the odd stir to stop it sticking at the bottom, and perhaps I'll give you a little midway point check-in just so you can see how it's going. But it is starting to boil up now. You can just see that starting to boil up. So I'll turn the temperature down to a simmer and I'll see you later. Well, that's been simmering away for 20 minutes now, and the liquid is reducing down quite nicely. So I'll keep a bit of a closer eye on it now, because I don't want it to burn. But another 20 to 25 minutes should see this done, and we'll be ready then for the pastry. So I'll come back to you again in a short while. Well, this has been in for 30 minutes now, and you can see the volume of liquid has dropped significantly. And I just had a cheeky taste of the vegetables to make sure that they are nice and soft, which they are. And I'm just going to pop in a little bit more of that black ground pepper. You could taste it ever so slightly, but I wanted to have a little bit of a bite. Nothing outrageous, you understand, but so that you know it's there. So we're not far off with this now. Another 10 to 15 minutes should see it reduced all the way down. So I'll come back to you then. Well, that's been in now for 40 minutes. And you can see there's absolutely no liquid in there at all. I've been quite diligent about keep stirring this to make sure it doesn't stick, and it isn't, but the liquid has gone. So it's now time to set that aside to cool down. Let's turn the heat off. I'll have to have a little shuffle around, and you can see I've gathered out some other accoutrements because it's time to start sorting the pastry out while this cools down. So I'll just pop the camera around so you can see what I'm doing, and I'll be back in a second. Okay, I've got a few bits and pieces out, got some flour to dust down. I'll pop that out of the way for now, just to cool down over by the window, whilst I set about the tricky bit, which is the pastry. So you saw me make this earlier. I've just had it in the fridge, keep it nice and chilled. So all we're going to do is unwrap this, and we'll get it portioned out into what I hope is sufficient size to be able to roll out the pastry for the making the pasties. I really should have cold hands for this. And what I also need to do, you'll have seen in previous videos, I do not want to get it on this wooden work surface, and really this isn't quite big enough. So I think what I'll do is I'll just give this a quick wipe down, and I'll actually do the rolling out on there. I'll portion up on here, but I'll roll out the pastry on here, I think. We'll see. I'll have a little think for 2 minutes and I'll come back to you. Okay, I've enlisted the services of a slightly scruffier chopping board, and I think I'll roll out on here rather than on the hob. I also had to have a rummage around to find something that was suitably pasty sized as a template to make the pasties. So we'll see how this goes anyway. It's all trial and error. So I think if I take it down the middle and then divide each of those into 3 to give me 6 pasties, hopefully that will be about right. We shall see. It is all trial and error. I just need to get a little bit of flour out onto the work surface that I'm going to be using, and I'll probably need some more of that as we go along, but we shall see. So let's take the first one, plop that out. It is absolutely freezing, so I don't know how well this is going to roll out, but we shall find out. As with everything, it is a learning curve, and it is hard. It's very hard. Oh, delivery man just rocked up outside. Don't know if you heard that or not. So we'll try and get these into as best a circle as we can. And then hopefully we'll be able to use that bowl as a template for making the actual pasty. This pastry doesn't want to be too thick, but by the same token I don't want it to be too thin that it allows the mixture inside to come out. I think we're fairly close. Ooh, tiny bit more, tiny bit. Let's find the thickest end and work that out. Gotta be there now, surely. Oh, just a fraction. Are you feeling my pain doing this live? I'm certainly not a master baker. But as I keep saying in lots and lots of my videos, it is all a learning curve, and I think we're about there. So if I just grab a little knife and trim around the outside, fingers crossed, we should end up with ta-da! We end up with a circle, and I'll just pop the filling in there, fold it over, crimp around the edges, and lo and behold, we've got our pasties. So there we go, there's the first one. Hopefully you can see that on the video, otherwise I'll be cursing later when I do the edit. All that remains is to do the remaining 5, and we'll have our pasties ready to go. Well, 3 down and 3 to go. It's slow but steady progress. So I'll get these other 3 finished, and then you can take a look at the finished items. Okay, so we're back, and I managed to actually get 7 pasty discs out of that pastry. Now, whether I'll be able to fill all of these remains to be seen, but I didn't want to waste the pastry. I'll keep that one because that was a straggler, so I'll keep that to the end and I'll use these. So essentially we've got our disc. All we're going to do is spoon out the mixture into the pasty, try and get as much of a mix as I can of meat and vegetable. Just trying to get a little mound in the centre. Excuse the fingers. It's knowing how many you're going to get out of this. Definitely towels required for this. And then fold over the disc to make that traditional pasty kind of shape. I've got a little bit of egg wash, so I'll just run that around the edge just to help seal the pasty together. Just use my little fork to kind of crimp around the edge. If you can't see it now, I'll show you it in a second once I'm finished. Ambidextrous knot. Essentially, you just want to make sure that nothing can escape. How does that look? Hopefully you can see that in the video. So we'll pop this onto our baking tray. and repeat. Distinct lack of meat in that one. Let's get some meat in there. That's better. Don't want to be stingy with the meat. And again, fold over and then just crimp down the edges. And there we go. So I'll just keep doing these and I'll get back to you once I've got them all ready to go in the oven. So I've ended up with 7 rather than 6 of the large size pasties. Just giving them a little bit of a egg wash before they go into the oven. Hopefully that will make them turn out nice and golden brown. We shall see. As always, it's all an experiment. And I don't know if you'll see or not, but let me grab the camera. I couldn't resist doing a little design on the 7th one. So I've got a little, what's supposed to be a bunny. Anyway, so there we go. There's our pasties all ready to go into the oven. I'm going to bake those at 200 degrees for around 30 to 35 minutes until they're nice and golden brown. At which point I shall let you see the finished results. Well, the pasties have been in for just coming up to 35 minutes. I'm in a fan oven, so I've reduced the heat slightly to 180, but I think these are done, these top ones. I have got a couple more sitting underneath which need to move up the shelf a little bit. They've kind of been, can I do this without spilling it? They've been sheltered a little bit, so they just need a couple of minutes more in the oven just to finish them off. But that's the result of our labours. I'll just pop the camera on the tripod and we'll take a look inside one. Now this might be a tad warm. Let's see. There we go. So that's the result of our labours. A nice little rabbit pasty. I'll just cut into that so you can see how it looks inside. That's really a nice rich pastry. And there's all the filling. Can you see that or not? I'll spin it round on the plate in a minute and then you'll get a decent look at it. So there we have our rabbit pasties. Hopefully you can get a decent look at there. A fair selection of meat and vegetables in those. So all that remains now is for me to tuck into one of these and see how they taste. So bon appetit. I've just had a little taste test of the pasties. Very, very nice, though I say so myself. Pastry is very buttery and the filling is a bit hot actually. I did burn my tongue. It is very, very nice and moist, and the rabbit really tender, really tender. So give those a little bit of a go if you happen to come across rabbit. and we'll catch up with you in another Cooking with Your Preps video soon. Well, that's it for this video. I hope there was something in there that was of interest to you. If you did like the video, please do click on the like button. Also, feel free to hit the subscribe button if you haven't already done so. As always, welcome any comments, questions or suggestions you might have. What do you think about the rabbit pasties? Is it something that you might want to try? Or do you have your own recipes for rabbit or other wildlife that you might like to share with us? Let us know in the comments section below. But for now, thanks for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.